Welcome back, everybody. I had a couple questions from some viewers on where these Can-Am Renegades are gusseted, where they're gusseted on the frame to make them stronger. So I wanted to address that today, maybe go over some other products that are on this quad, and show you some of the stuff, some of the things that are on this thing that make it race ready and make it hold up better on the trail. So let's get into it. So there's a couple key areas on these frames that need to be reinforced if you're going to race them. Even if you don't race them, it's probably a good idea to, if you ride hard, to reinforce them. And the biggest one is the bottom rails of these frames are pretty weak, pretty thin steel. So I believe this is a 1.25 inch. We put a 1.25 inch square tubing, and we'll drive it all the way up through the frame just to reinforce that frame, and then weld it in through the back here. And then another spot is, and the big problem is, see if I can get it here, if you can see it or not. The big weak spot in these frames is when you're riding them really hard, the frame tends to crack right here behind the transmission. So a lot of the gusset kits out there, it would crack. It'd crack right here. A lot of the gusset kits out there, they add this plate. If you can see it in there, there's an extra plate that they put in behind. They welded in behind the transmission. I believe this plate right here that is stock, but I'm not sure on this plate here. But that one. This plate back here, it's kind of V-shaped. It just goes up from the bottom of the rail to the top and back down again. That's welded in. That's a pretty key area because that's where these frames crack, is right there from all the stress. And another spot is where this frame is gusseted, is back up where this bottom transmission mount is. The top of this. See if I can get it. The frame is gusseted right here. There's a triangle piece that goes at the top of the frame and comes down in this corner right here. I don't know if you can see that. There's just a little triangle piece there. So that's reinforced there. And then I showed you guys on an earlier video, the steering stem is gusseted. Right here, there's a plate that goes on there. Let me get over here on the other side and show you. Also, where your feet sit, here are the bottom rails. There's a square piece. Can't hardly see it. There we go. This piece right here is gusseted, because you're putting so much down pressure with your feet on these. That's gusseted there. Every foot rail is like that. This one's the same way in the front. It's gusseted down here. And then this frame is also, now this is a 2018 Renegade. And it has I think this is aftermarket, the front sway bar. They started that in 2019, so this was added, but it's also gusseted right behind. There's an L piece of metal here that's welded in that's gusseted for that. And the biggest thing is, a lot of these gusseting, where it's gusseted, you can make these and weld them in, but the hardest part would be where this rear swing arm is. Now this is a gusset right here that runs up through here for this main bolt that goes across here. Stock Renegades, they don't have this gusset, and that reinforces the frame quite a bit right here. You could probably trace it out on cardboard and cut it up and weld it in if you wanted to, but that would be pretty time consuming. It can be done though. And then the last part that I know of that's gusseted on here is is up front by the A-arms. There's a plate. Here's a power steering unit. There's a plate right here on the back side of this that's welded to the frame. And one other thing is this front plate here. This is gusseted in the front. Now this whole frame was done by DeRisi Racing Inc. down in North Carolina. I don't know if they sell kits, a DIY kit, but I know you can send them your frame and get it gusseted. The only other person that I know of, or company that does it, is B&R Motorsports. They do sell a kit. You could also send them your frame to get gusseted. I've never dealt with them. I don't know how their kit works or how it's installed. So I know there's some YouTube videos out there that do explain that. Now with this being a 2018, the front sway bar is mounted on the bottom A-arms on this. The 2019 and up newer quads, the sway bar is linked to the top upper A-arm. So I don't know on those ones if they're reinforcing this upper A-arm. You can see this upper A-arm is gusseted right here. There's a plate there, and there's a plate on the back. Here's a newer. I had to replace this A-arm this year, and I had to weld this up and gusset this in. I hit a tree on this side pretty hard, and it didn't break the A-arm. If it was a stock A-arm, it definitely would have broke, and I wouldn't have been able to finish the race for sure. But with this being gusseted and having heim joints in the bottom here, it just kind of shifted this whole assembly back maybe like a quarter of an inch, and it bent the other A-arm. I think it was up here. So even with this stuff gusseted, it's still gonna bend, but you'll be able to finish the race. Some of the other things I wanted to go over, I'm using MZM bumpers. Here's the Jackie handle. MZM bumpers, front and back. Absolutely love them. I'm not sponsored by them, but I do. If I had another quad, I'd put them on there. Here's the back bumper. It acts as an intrusion bar here. It goes up and just kind of ties this upper part of the frame to the lower part of the frame, and reinforces that. This quad in 2018, the Renegades had regular rear diffs in them, and this particular one, when I bought it, the person put a XMR rear diff in it. So it has two bearings in here for the pinion, which just it makes the rear diff more reliable. And then other than that, I have stock bearings, stock axles. I have garage product bearing or bushings in it. In the front, I'm using aftermarket tie rods. These are thicker tie rods, and actually I have stock ones I can show you. Or I got the different tie rods out here. This is a stock tie rod here. These are stock, and then these are the beefed up ones, and you can tell there's quite a bit of difference in them size wise. Oh, I think they're worth the money getting the thicker ones. What else? Bumper. So I want to go over the exhaust here. I'm running a full HMF blackout exhaust, the performance exhaust. It was a really tight fit on here. It sounds awesome. It is loud. I have to wear earplugs when I'm racing. It had It had a Empire exhaust on here. I got it out here so you can see it. This was a good sounding exhaust. I didn't have to wear earplugs at racing with it. The only problem is with these exhausts, and I think Empire's changing it now. I think they're riveting their exhaust. The problem with this one is it's bolted together. There's bolts here, here. You know, it's just the whole thing's bolted. And there's so much vibration when you're racing. These bolts come out and loosen up, and you can see there's a couple different. That bolt's different. This bolt over here is different. There's some other ones that are different. That one down there. It's just there's so much vibration, and you're riding so hard they just rattle loose. So the HMF exhaust here, it's all riveted on the ends. The only bolts are here on the caps. Never had any problems with them coming off. This thing sounds amazing. I did wrap it. So I was having a problem with my shocks. They're so close to this exhaust. The oil's getting hot and they're fading. And so what I did was I bought some titanium wrap. I wrapped the exhaust here. You know, this section from here to here. And I made this plate up here just to try to keep some of the heat off the shock. Literally, my shock is almost touching this here. But what I've noticed was I have triple rate axis shocks, and some of the other guys have HMF exhaust that are single. There's only one spring, or they're running dual rate springs. And the problem, like my springs sit right up to the top of this. If you have a dual or single rate spring set up, the springs are down here, and there's more room between that and between the exhaust and the shock. So I put this plate on to try to keep the heat off, and I have heat tape on the back side of this. One other thing I'm running is I'm running a Iron Baltic skid plate on this. They're pretty expensive, but they're well worth it. This thing is it's taking a beating here, and I absolutely love it. If you can get to see under here. I'm running the plastic ones, and they've held up great. A couple other things. I had to replace the shifter linkage here. I put a metal bracket in where the plastic ones, when I bought this quad, the plastic one was cracked. Can't believe it didn't break on me. But I replaced it with these metal ones. A lot better, hold up a lot better. The other thing is the valve covers are known for leaking because they're plastic and they start to warp with the heat, and then the oil starts coming off. I replaced it with these aluminum cast valve covers. And a couple other little things. I've had the plastic transmission plug break on me, so I put a metal plug in here. And I think that pretty much does it with the aftermarket stuff. You guys know about the J-Parts steering stem and the J-Parts steering stem, the J-Parts pitman arm. I'm not sponsored by J-Parts, but I do believe in quality products, and I will promote them if they are well worth the money. So one last thing is these lower A-arms. I have S3 lower A-arms, Heim joints, and like I said earlier, I think I'm pretty sure S3 doesn't make lower A-arms anymore for these Renegades. Everybody goes to the Textera adjustable lower A-arms. I'm pretty sure they're the only ones that really make them anymore. But having lower A-arms it affects the handling so much. You can do so much adjustment on them, and this thing handles like it's on rails. So definitely worth looking into getting adjustable lower A-arms. And looking at the quad here, this is the coolant line here. What I did was I cut, this gets rocks and sticks thrown up at it, and sometimes these coolant lines will come off, or they'll get cut and leak. And what I did was I just took another piece of like a radiator hose, cut a little section off here, and zip tied it on there just to make it extra thick, so nothing can puncture this coolant line. And then the last thing I can think of is this radiator guard protector, keeping the rocks, and it actually stops quite a bit of mud and stuff from getting up in the radiator and clogging it, and preventing the quad from overheating. So I think that's everything that I can think of. Have flex bars on it, awesome handlebars, love them, and gonna be running DP brakes this year. I'm looking forward to using those. I think that wraps everything up that I can think of. If you've got any more questions, let me know, and I'll try to address them, and hopefully you'll learn something here. You can use some of this on your quad. Like always, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.